Africa? Yes, you heard right. Nairobi, Kenya, East Africa, Igabantu Studios. I am joined by the producer of For Heart of Gold, Woody Kulcha. Woody, welcome to the Kenya International Sports Film Festival 2020, the virtual edition. I see that you picked the subject of boxing. Why is that so, sir? Okay, it seems that we are trying to get Mr. Woody Kulcha. In the meantime, I just want to talk about the Kenya National Sports Film Festival 2020, virtual edition, and the fact that we don't only inform you or entertain you, but we also educate you. What have we learned so far? We have learned that there is an Iranian sport called Zurkhane that is now played in Kenya. We have learned that Kenya is going to be the center for African shooting from our panel on marksmanship and shooting. We have learned that governments such as the government of Egypt as an African nation, can actively and enthusiastically support differently abled men and women in sports. We have learned that sports and film can be essential catalysts in peace building and conflict resolution. And now back to Woody. Woody, my question is, why did you pick boxing as a subject? We have learned that sports and film can be essential catalysts in peace building and conflict resolution. And now back to Woody. Woody, my question is, why did you pick boxing as a subject? We have learned that sports and film can be essential catalysts in building and conflict resolution.
I need to close. Okay, sorry.
Oh, thank you.
I got that too on. Thailand got quite famous on boxing in terms of sport in international events, and also in terms of tourist attractions. That's why there are many boxers around suburb of Thailand, and it would be quite like what do you call? You can see a lot of boxers around countryside whenever you go around this country.
Mm-hmm.
It's quite a famous sport in Thailand.
Okay. And is this your first sports film, or have you done other sports films before?
This is one. This is the first one.
Mm-hmm. Are you going to do others?
We are planning on another one that would be a kind of romantic relation between transvestite in Cabaret in Pattaya that falling in love with a boxer in the area, and they are like kind of got a journey on the boy. I think as I talked to the director, the boy got cheated by the coach, like what do they call shoulder towel, and like a cheating on in terms of gambling, and that make the boy kind of disappointed on their faith in boxing. Later on, he cried and he quit the dream of being a great boxer.
Okay.
The girls got involved in this situation and fall in love with the boy. And actually, it's not a girl. It's like a drag queen and transvestite, thing like that. And they are famous in Pattaya that they have lady boy that look exactly like a lady.
Would you consider coming to shoot a film on sports or documentary in Kenya, for instance?
If we got the good script or good offer, that will get some some story that value enough to make a film and to tell story that.
Okay, that's good. So that's Woody Kulchart from Thailand. He's a producer of For Heart of Gold, which just screened here at the Kenya International Sports Film Festival 2020, the virtual edition. And he was on boxing. We also know Thailand because of kickboxing. Is there a kickboxing movie in the future, Woody?
The movie that I just talked about is gonna be Kickboxer.
Aha.
He's good in action shot. He decides a lot of action shot that I got to see his show reel before we get on this film.
Okay. Thank you very much, and keep watching the Kenya International Sports Film Festival 2020, the virtual edition. That was Woody Kulchart from Thailand, producer for Heart of Gold. Now, before we go into our next panel, I'm going to take you on a little journey. Once upon a time in 1985, a gentleman by the name of Harry Belafonte approached a gentleman by the name of Kenneth Allen Cragen because he saw something that literally touched his heart and changed his life. Kenneth Cragen was the manager for Lionel Richie and the late Kenny Rogers. And when Mr. Belafonte came to Ken Cragen, he told him there's something that he saw that he thinks Ken should see. It is a piece of footage that literally changed the face of the world. This was 1985. The footage that was seen had been shot by a gentleman known as Mohammed Amin. We are privileged and honored to have with us here at the Kenya International Film Festival 2020 virtual edition, the son of the great man himself, Mohammed Amin. We have Salim Amin. That footage that was shot inspired USA for Africa, We Are the World, and the rest is history. Salim, please.
Oh, thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
Thank you, Chris.
Karibu sana.
To do virtual.
You have a storied, you come from a rich culture of storytelling, especially in film. And what I remember is, like, when I was growing up, yours was the only house we could pass by, and there was satellite equipment because your dad had some special kind of privilege because of who he was to have that kind of equipment, especially under that regime. And he was known locally, regionally, and globally. And you had the privilege of actually doing a biopic, I think it was Mo and Me,
That's right.
on your dad. And that's why you're here, because this is the importance of the sports biopic and its impact within society. Why did you choose to do a biopic on your father?
Well, I mean, it was a long journey. I mean, we were sorry, it's a virtual edition. I was looking at his story for a long time. It's a really difficult thing to do, getting funding, getting people interested in this. And so one of the challenges I had for many years, I mean, the documentary came out more than 10 years after he died. And it took that long, literally, to be able to find the right people to do it with, or to back it, to sponsor it. You were talking about a film about a guy from Africa, a brown guy from Africa, whose name was Mohammed,
Yes.
who wasn't a terrorist. You know, so it was a really difficult sell to make people understand the impact of his life and the importance of what it was that he had done, not just for this continent, but globally, to raise the conscience of people. You know, as you mentioned in the intro, Chris, the footage from Ethiopia and the famine changed the face of the world. It was one of the most important pieces of news footage of the 20th century.
Yes.
It was a catalyst for the greatest act of charity in our history. And it all came from a Kenyan.
Yes.
And that's something that you don't hear very often, you know, especially in international media, that it was actually a local person who made that story. So we were lucky. A lot of things fell into place for me. One was Al Jazeera was launching their English language channel in 2006, and their whole philosophy was to tell stories about people from the South that hadn't been told before, to be different to the BBCs and CNNs and Sky and all the others, who we had all offered this story to before, but were not interested because they were like, who cares?
Who cares?
Yeah, that was it.
Your father brought Michael Jackson and Lionel Richie together to write a song.
But they didn't care. As far as they were concerned, it was the Michael Berg story, or it was the white BBC reporter story. It was nothing to do with my father. So Al Jazeera was looking at telling different stories, wanting to portray Muslims in a different light to what was being shown by the international media. This was all post 9/11, of course. And so this was just the perfect fit for them. It ticked all the boxes, and so they agreed to help us make the documentary. And then that started a sort of 3-year journey for me to be able to first research. The research took 3 years. I thought I knew a lot of the story, but to actually make a biopic, you have to go back and find those people. That it can't just be me telling my version of his story. It had to be from the people that he had come across during his travels and during his life that were part of his journey. So going back to Tanzania, to Zanzibar, to Idi Amin's Uganda, to Ethiopia, to the famine, to where he lost his arm, to the US to find where they built him a bionic arm. And then to do the hijack, to go back into the cockpit with the same pilot that was flying the plane that day, for him to take me through that. All that required almost 3 years to set it all up.
And just so you know that 2 of the most famous cameramen from this part of the world, East Africa, incidentally all have the first name Mo. There's Mohammed Amin and there's Mohinder Dillon.
And they worked as friends, as rivals, in different
with Brian Tetley
different companies. Brian Tetley was another amazing character. I mean, I don't think, no disrespect to the journalists today, but I don't think they make them like that anymore. And these guys, and they also had amazing stories to be able to cover, amazing characters, like Idi Amin, like Bukasa, like Haile Selassie,
Tom Mboya, who your dad accompanied actually to hospital.
He was there when he was assassinated,
and
or literally got there within 2 minutes, and the ambulance driver didn't know where to go when they put the body in. He was so frazzled. He was so what do I do? And I was like, get to Nairobi Hospital, and then he's in the hospital with him while they tried to resuscitate him, revive him.
And also in the field of sports, he's also captured some very good images of the Safari Rally, the original
the Safari Rally was his passion. The Safari Rally was his absolute. Every Easter, the country used to stop and shut down for the Safari Rally. Again, it's wonderful that they're bringing the Safari Rally back here next year, but again, it's not going to be the same. That was 4,000 miles of man and machine
and dust
taking over, trying to dominate the harshest possible terrain. No special stages, no sort of setups, no spectator-only stages. It was just get on the car and drive and just get to the other side. But he loved it, and that was where I learned how to shoot and photograph and film, was during the rally, and it was some of those pictures with elephants in the background,
with the giraffes,
and the cars used to go through the game parks. You'll never see that again, and it's a part of our history that we want to really preserve.
And your father loved Africa so much, he named the company what again?
Camerapix.
Yes. And he is somebody who, if you don't know who Mohammed Amin is, then Google is your friend. And he's somebody who is in the annals of history as one of the best photographers, not only from Kenya or East Africa, but in the world. And Salim here is continuing the tradition. He made a biopic on his dad. It's called Mo and Me. And our topic of discussion is the importance of the sports biopic and its impact within society. And basically what's going to happen is after the panel, okay.
I just heard that in my ear.
We have a surprise, when you're doing things live. I've just been informed that Salim is in the panel. Okay, so without any further ado, I'm going to introduce the panelists. Of course, there's Salim Amin. Then we have AMIT TYAGI from India. And AMIT is a graduate of the prestigious Film and Television Institute of India, Pune. a practicing film and television writer-director. He has made over 100 documentaries, over 500 hours of broadcast TV, a feature film, MIGWI, which means basically let us all get together, let us hear each other. It's on the Mama in Kenya. And the Karims, a sporting dynasty, which has been screened in film festivals around the world. Actually, it's the Karims, a sporting dynasty, 2 sports, 1 family, 3 generations. And we also have Madam NJOKI MUHOHO, here from Nairobi, Kenya. She's an award-winning film producer and scriptwriter. She's a member of the International Emmys and has been a juror in many local and international film awards, including the Kenya International Sports Film Festival. For the first 2 years, she has been a chief juror. And she has awards in Best AMVCA Indigenous Film TV Series, Udada Festival Life Achievement Award, and also Most Influential Woman Personality in Film 2020. She is also the Academy Director for MultiChoice Talent Factory, the MultiChoice Regional Film Academy. And then from Cambodia, we're joined by Mr. MANISH Sharma. He is a Cambodian filmmaker, producer, actor, and director since 2015. He has been the CEO of Cricket Association of Cambodia, and his 2015 movie, Bauk Chambab, meaning wrestling, won the Special Juror Award at the 2018 Kenya International Sports Film Festival. We're not virtual then. And our moderator is the director of the Kenya Film Commission. She's executive producer and managing director of Protel Studios Limited. She has vast experience in television and content production for over 20 years. Her name is Madam Sarah MIGWI, and she will be moderating this panel. Again, it's a surprise, but hey, karibu sana.
I'm happy to be here.
Thank you.
Chris, can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
Thank you so much for that amazing introduction. Salim, it is so good to see you. One of the people that I really do respect in this industry, and of course the work that your father did. And a very warm welcome to Madam NJOKI, who's joining us. I think Manish and Amit will be joining us shortly, but in the meantime, I think we can carry on and then they'll join us as we carry on in the conversation. And our conversation is very important in the sense that we're talking about the importance of sports, biopics, and the importance within the society. And for me, it really just comes really close to my heart in regards to storytelling. And I'd just like us to dwell immediately deep into the conversation. And just start with you, Salim, now that you are a surprise guest. Especially since on your dad, and just to really find out in terms of what's the kind of impact and the effect that you did have, especially around telling the story to your dad.
Sorry, Sarah, do you mind repeating?
Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear him?
You're blocking the microphone. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Sarah, I think
Salim,
you're blocking the microphone with your hand.
Nope, not at all. Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm. Now I can hear you. Sorry, do you mind repeating that?
Can you hear me? Okay. Yeah, so I would just like, and just even before I carry on, it's just a warm welcome to everyone. And for you, Salim, is just to find out from you, especially since you've recently done a biopic on your dad, your amazing dad, and the great work that he did. It's just to find out for you, what's the kind of feedback and the impact that you have seen from having done the biopic on your dad?
Well, for me personally, it was, it was a very cathartic journey. It was for me to understand his life, to be able to appreciate the work that he had done, and to learn a little bit more about what drove him to do this kind of work. But I think in terms of a bigger impact, it was what it's had on young journalists, young Kenyan, African journalists, that watched this and understood the power of what they actually can do with this profession, and that to me has been the most. It's been the most impactful and the most. It's the thing I've got the most pleasure out of, is hearing stories of young journalists saying, you know what, I think because I've watched this documentary, I am inspired now to do more for my profession. I know that I have the power to be able to tell stories. I know I have the power. I've learned some history that I didn't know before, about the country, about the region, about the importance of people like Tom Mboya and the people like Idi Amin and Bukasa. And now I can actually do my job better. I can actually tell stories better. I can understand the impact. I can be more responsible. So these are things that I felt were lacking in the journalist industry in Kenya and in Africa. And I think I'm hoping that story will be able to help. And I think with sport biopics, this is because that mine is not a sport biopic, but with the sport biopics that I've seen, that sense of inspiring people, of telling a little bit about the history that young people don't know, and understanding the impact and influence of athletes in our day-to-day lives, though we don't even realize it. I think those are really key to making a good biopic.
All right, thank you so much, Salim. And just to find out, especially now that you were digging into your dad's story, and are there things that you found out about your dad that you didn't know about?
Many things. many things that I had no clue about what he did and why he did them, and that I didn't understand, but now I do. And we had a very difficult relationship, him and I. And now we have a better relationship, even though he's not here. I have a much better appreciation of the work that he did and why he did it.
All right. Thank you so much, Salim. NJOKI, good evening.
Evening to you. How are you?
I'm good, NJOKI. How are you doing? And now you're doing some really great work, especially with the Talent Factory, and with the training, especially with now the upcoming, or just the chiseling of the filmmakers. What do you think we need to be able to do different, especially around the biopics, especially around sports? Are we doing enough as a current as an industry currently with all that it is that we have?
Let me start by saying that there is a saying that a prophet is not heard in his own village. I was about to say it in my vernacular because that comes more naturally, but now I have to translate. Isn't it amazing how unique we are in sports in East Africa? But a young kid would rather run for trying to do a film that's a copycat of a Hollywood movie or an Indian movie. So we have a long way to go. And here I talk generally about filmmaking. We have a long way to go to appreciate our own stories. But at the same time, our young people probably don't have as much knowledge as we, who I call children of independence, who heard of the stories of Kipchoge Keino. We who still had newspaper clippings of Kipchoge Keino coming back from Mexico with our first Olympic gold and being driven around the city of Nairobi in an open car. Our young people don't have that. So I will not blame filmmakers. I will blame us. How much are we encouraging them to do that? How about if every school in their film curriculum, they actually challenge them? We always tell them, oh, you must make a feature, you must make a documentary, you must make an advert, a TVC. Is it called TVC? A TV commercial, yeah?
Yes.
But how many film schools say, and you must do a film on a sportsman, a woman who is a legend in your region? I hope I've answered your question.
Thank you, NJOKI. Yes, you have, and you're right. But I just, because I've been doing a bit of research, especially about biopics, and I think the biopics that I've currently been, especially around our film industry in Kenya, are countable, probably in one hand. And I'm just trying to really understand what is it that would encourage us to be able to tell the stories. Because it's not the stories that are lacking; the stories are there. So, what do you think, especially your point of view and the wealth of experience that you have had, that we probably need to be able to do different as an industry to be able to tell those stories, because the stories are there.
Community once told me, as we're talking about cultural values and how to help the young people not lose their identity. And he told me, you've got to know your history, appreciate your history, then you know who you are. And that forms a platform, the Lord, for where you go next, whether you end up in a foreign country or wherever you end up, because you cannot erase the history in you. So having said that, what should we do? I am passionate, and I'm assuming maybe that's why I qualified to be invited in this discussion. I'm so passionate specifically about our Kenyan marathon runners. I did my film training in Hollywood, and everybody, they were all asking, how many marathons do you run in a week? and I was trying to explain, it's not my community that runs. So much was the topic that my own teacher brought me a book, and I'm going to show this book here because I'm very passionate about this book. Taboo. This book speaks a lot about, as you can see the title, let me try and see. The title is Why Black Athletes Dominate Sports and Why We Are to Talk About It. This book talks about and 3/4 of the book is about the Kenyan runners. Then it's about the NBA in the US, because I mean they are predominantly black, you know. And what I find interesting, there's a graph here that I love so much. It's on the origin of man. They go into all those Greek phrases, Homo sapiens or whatever, you know, and they track the origin of man. Guess where? East Africa. And then they follow it all the way to Iceland. And they follow that with the prowess of sports. Now, if the origin of mankind is where we run, okay, in the same book they say we run like cheetahs because we are still evolving, we are still cheetahs. Anyways, that's not the point. But, and if they think we're still cheetahs, I think that's a compliment, because there's no other beautiful animal in the world than the cheetah. So now, if they have done this research and they're writing this is by, I believe, a white American journalist. Why aren't we telling these stories? Because they're so integral to our origin. Do you know at one time, Kenya held 40% of all the international world records and gold medals? 40%. Now you do the maths geographically, the square kilometers of Kenya versus the whole world. That says something. Then they zero into the village in Iten, and the percentage of gold medals and world records from Iten is 0.00000, and we go to 12 zeros, 1% of the world.
Yeah.
Why aren't we learning our history? Why aren't we seeing the uniqueness of who we are? That to me is why we should cover sports. In another book done by an athlete who went to the Nandi camp and stayed there with the likes of Paul Target and wrote a book on him, he actually says he watched school kids on a village district competition break world records barefooted and still wearing their long uniform skirts.
Yeah. Yes.
These are stories we are not telling. Me included. I haven't done a film yet. I mean, they're still there in my computer. So I could go on and on and on, but back to you, Madam Moderator.
That is such rich information, and
Sarah, if I can
that
jump
is
in.
such rich information and feedback. Yeah. Salim, I was actually gonna pose the same question to you. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Salim?
I can. Yeah, so I mean,
Yeah,
I just did a
Please
book
jump in.
that came out last year, which was called Kenya Through My Father's Eyes. It was a coffee table book about the history of the country through my father's photographs. And a whole section of that was on athletes. And I learned an enormous amount about our athletics history that I had no clue about, but which was content of which is sitting in our archives, even now. So Sabine Jebcic, there was the petticoat runner,
princess, yeah.
the petticoat runner, and she used to run world record times in a green petticoat, barefoot, before she was discovered. Charles Asati, one of the great 400-meter runners that most people have never heard about. You've got Kip and a couple of them that have made themselves global figures, and yes, it's for me it's a disgrace to us as Kenyans that a 3-time Olympic gold medalist and world record holder could go into a restaurant and nobody would have a clue who he or she is. But a politician goes into the same restaurant and everybody is, bowing down to them, everybody's going up to them. But you've got these people that have taken the Kenyan name high globally and made us proud, and nobody's talking about them. Nobody is celebrating them enough. And I believe there's a new book that's just come out on Kenyan athletes and the history of athletics, which Susan has done, and I believe it's an amazing book. I haven't seen it myself. I think it's just come out, but it's a big coffee table book, and I think those are the kinds of things that need to be highlighted about our athletes. And I think they're great documentaries. As NJOKI has said, there's some amazing documentaries and films to be made. I learned about I knew about Kip Keino, of course, everybody knows Kip Keino, but I didn't know that he used to one of his biggest fears was being late for his race. So he used to run to his race and then run the race. Like in Tokyo, in the Olympics, I think the Olympics in Tokyo many years ago, the bus was stuck in traffic, so he got out of the bus and he ran to the stadium and then ran the 10,000 meters and won the gold medal. So these are the kinds of stories that I think they're interesting, they're funny, and they just show the spirit that we have and the love for sport that we have. And it's not just running. That's what we're best known for. But the Safari Rally, which Chris and I were talking about before, we've hosted some amazing events in this country. We've done so much for global sport that it's not celebrated enough, is all I'm saying.
All right.
Actually,
thank you so much, Salim. And yes, go ahead, NJOKI.
To add on to that, why are we so unique and we are not telling enough of our stories? Again, and I read a quote from the book I have in my hand. There's great release of pressure. We're talking of Kenyan runners. You have a lot of cracking. Can you hear me?
Can hear you, NJOKI.
Okay.
Yeah.
They don't have a great fear of losing because the loss is distributed over the group. Where in the world, when an athlete fails, their failure, if they don't win, it's always the individual has failed. We see it in ESPN. But in Africa, it's a community thing. Look at how when our Elliot didn't make it in the London Marathon, I think I was among the first to say, you're still ours, you're still a dog, come back for my hero. But in the developed world, in some countries where they've even shot their own athletes for letting them down.
Colombia.
So we are so unique. Let me add, I seem to talk a lot about running. This is my last comment, then I keep quiet. I get very passionate about sport. I once was on holiday in Dubai, and in the van there were people from other countries. And then I think Tiger Woods was around playing golf that time, and that time Tiger Woods on top of the world. And then we happened to get into a conversation with my Kenyan friend about Rose Neliaka and how she had just won the top women's tournament in Africa for the second year running or something like that. And one lady said, "Oh, isn't it a miracle how people who have grown with no golf courses can go out there and win? You know, God is reading, does miracles." And I said, "Hold on. Just in Nairobi, within Nairobi, we have 6 golf courses, you know." And she said, "Really?
Yeah.
What place?" I said, "People like me and another and another and another, you know." So we are not singing our praise. We are not singing our song. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Njoki. And we don't want you to keep quiet. It's all about sharing. We want to hear a lot more, Njoki. So at this point, I would like to welcome Manish, who's now with us. Manish, a warm welcome to you.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes, I can hear
Yes,
you.
we can.
Yes.
And one of the things that I really do admire, especially when I look at India of biopics that you guys that India is telling, they're telling a lot of their sports stories, and it's just to be able to understand, especially from your end, Manish. I don't know how did this all start? At what point did you, as an industry, as a country, realize that we need to be able to tell more about our stories? Because in Kenya, just like you've had, we have a lot of amazing stories within the sports industry. You've got amazing sports personalities and sportsmen and women who are doing amazing things. It's just that their stories are not getting out there. So especially now as an industry, so that since you are a couple of years ahead of us in terms of what it is that you've been able to do in terms of getting these stories out, how did you get there? What is the one advice that you can be able to give us, especially as a country, for us to be able to get out there, and get our stories told?
Yeah, good question. Actually, is which I want to say. We saw a few movies based on biopics. I say few. We know only about those which come on the bigger screen. A lot of stories which should be there, but they are not there because they're not completed. The struggle of a person broke in minute. You are very close. He or she have everything, but because of some situation or the you can say as we see in sport especially, most of the people who have that talent, they need to work hard. They don't have another income of source. So the always most of the you can say legends, they come from poor background. So it's about awareness. We need to make more stories. Not just only movies. We want to produce some documentaries. We need to do theaters. We need to add those things in school curriculum. Let the people know what actually they want. How the normal people can associate with them and can help them. So once this starts, this is going to be a big thing. I was there in Kenya, lovely people, beautiful country, very nice people. They are very much helping. But you know, when you are sitting as a tourist with the local people is different. But when you are seeing a person every day, you see his struggle. And in that time when they need financial support, in that situation it became hard for a person who watch them every day because they think, "Oh, he is struggling, one day he will get it." But actually they need the support from the community. They need support from people. So I just think not only movies, these kind of stories they must have to add in the school curriculum. Let the young people prepare in if they want to make their career in sport, what kind of challenges they are going to face, how they can prepare themselves to face those kind of challenges. So I think it's a good thing if we add those kind of things in school curriculum, make YouTube videos about any story. Now it's very easy thing, everybody have a mobile phone and everything is very handy. So just Write a story on YouTube. Just say a story with few inspiring pictures on YouTube. Let the people know that there is something where they need to connect.
Thank you so much, Manish. Thank you for that. And back to you, Salim. So our topic is around the importance of sports biopics and its importance within the society. And now coming back home to Kenya, I mean, we've got major challenges, especially around this COVID times, as well as even before, prior to COVID, the challenges around unemployment and all around our society. And just to name a few, what are some of the challenges that you see that sports biopics can be able to deal with, as a country? Now, I'll give you an example. I say that as a country, I feel we have lost hope. There's a lot, because whenever you put on your television or you're looking at media, it's a lot more of negative stories as opposed to positive stories that are meant to build hope within us as a society. So when you have someone who's having a hard time, who has been brought up within a hard environment, and the only one means of entertainment is crashing that hope even further. I mean, what are some of the challenges that you think that sports biopics, as especially knowing our country as we are today, can be able to deal with?
Well, I think the first challenge is financial. That's, there's no money out there. When broadcasters across the country and across the continent ask you to pay them in order to put your content on air, then you're immediately starting from a negative situation. And it's very difficult for producers to actually create content under that atmosphere. I think, the Kenya Film Commission, which is our local film body here, has done an incredible job in terms of trying to promote filmmakers and to push grants and make funds available for filmmakers to be creative. I think, we're one of the beneficiaries of that for other things, and I really think that is needed on a much bigger scale. I think if we can find alternate platforms for sports biopics to be broadcast on, whether they are online. I mean, like this festival that we're doing now, I mean, it's incredible how much content has been generated by this. It's all online, it's free, it's available to not just the Kenyan public, but a global audience. I'm sure there are people sponsoring it, there's people helping, and you have to go out and find these people, but it is possible. And I think we need that encouragement from government. I think the Ministry of Culture and Sport here has really, again, is stepping up in building, rebuilding the infrastructure of the country, stadiums, putting a bigger emphasis on sport, bringing back the Safari Rally next year. These are all very positive steps, and I think if we can keep going on this path and we can keep encouraging filmmakers to make these films. I mean, I don't know how many, for example, how many Kenyan Olympians are still alive. I don't know what age, right from the beginning, from 1964, whenever the first Olympics we attended as Kenya, how many of those people are still alive? How many of their stories have been told? Where are they now? And to me, that would be a fascinating story and journey to go through the Olympians and find out where they are, what they're doing now, what are some of their memories of the games. But I don't, it's really difficult to do it. I'd love to do it, but it takes a lot of support, it takes a lot of money, it takes a lot of commitment and partnership with government and the National Olympic Committee to find these people, and I hope they've kept track of them. And so these are things that I think there are small things that we can change as a country and as a government to be able to promote sports filmmaking. But they're not being done yet. And I think we need to use platforms like this to discuss the opportunities and bring them in. Making feature films about our athletes is still a long way away. I think for that we should start with documentaries and sort of biography documentaries on some of these people. The feature films will come. People like Manish and others can then maybe see some really interesting stories and decide that there could be a feature film made on this particular athlete and their journey. But you need to give them that background. Otherwise, like he said, you can come here as a tourist, but you don't actually get an essence of what's happening in the country. You don't learn about this because we're not telling those stories enough.
To you, what are your thoughts on the same?
Sorry, that's me?
Chris.
We did.
No, Chris.
Yes.
It's
Sorry.
Chris. Chris.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yes, you're part of this panel.
Also on the panel.
Okay. I mean,
You're
okay.
part
My
of this
thoughts.
panel. I would like
Number
to
one.
hear you.
First of all, Kenya Film Commission has been really supportive of efforts such as that we're discussing. And with the Kenya Film Commission, you film Kenya, you capture Africa. And yes, stories are important. Stories need to be told. From my perspective, my very first encounter with sports films was mainly biopics. I mean, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Pumping Iron. That was his story as a bodybuilder. You had stories like before Will Smith did Ali, Muhammad Ali actually did his own story. It was called The Greatest. It was in the 70s. That was a biopic. So the importance of a sports biopic is, first of all, it humanizes the legends. It makes you see how they've gone through struggles, the dedication, the commitment, the self-involvement and support that they have invested in themselves. First as human beings to get to where they are. We know them as legends. For me, somebody like his dad is an image that is larger than life. But to him, it's his dad. You see? So when we do things like sports biopics, we bring to a level of mortality that which we deify as possibly in the realms of the Greek gods.
Yeah. Thank you, Chris.
You're
NJOKI, you are ready to answer that question. Please, go ahead.
Actually, I was on it because we missed the beginning whom it is you had called, yeah, to answer.
No, sorry.
I would like to say something.
Yeah, okay. Let's be real on the technicalities of making a sports film, whether documentary, biopic, or fiction. It's expensive. The technique is much more difficult than putting people in a room, a cardboard room, and do a telenovela. Let's face it. You need more equipment, you need more technical skills. So it needs more funding, more time to prepare and all that. If I am a marathon runner, you are not going to cover me with a smartphone on the entire 42.6 kilometers. You will need so much equipment. You need so many cameras. You will need, it's expensive, okay? However, that's no excuse because even now in COVID, I've seen my students produce brilliant films with no budget at all using their phones, yeah? So when people are pushed and they intend to do something, they will do it. So funding. Let's also go to where funding is provided. I think it's the gentleman, sorry, I just had a mental block, who just said about government, whom it is that they're funding. When government funds are released to makers, how much in Kenya, let's say Kenya is an example, what percentage of that funding goes to making films, documentaries, biopics or whatever to do with the golden thing that Kenya is known for besides the wildlife, our own athletes? The problem starts even from there. That people who are making decisions, someone where the funds should go, That's one. Two, internationally, when people are looking for co-producers or looking for development agencies to fund, what do they fund? They fund things like, okay, it's a mental health institution, they fund mental health. It's to do with politics, they fund politics. It's to do with journalists being punished by politicians, beaten up, they fund that. So let's also look at world over. Which are the topics that governments and development agencies are going for? Now, it's for us, the filmmakers, to think creatively and turn it round. So let me cover an athlete under the theme of mental health. Then I will go to a funder who is obsessed with or passionate about mental health. And I talk about an athlete and the mental journey, their ups and downs, their suicides, their bad decisions, their spending money and whatever. You see what I mean? So we filmmakers also need to think creatively and innovatively if we are to find funds, which is the main hindrance to making sports biopics. Okay, over to you.
Thank you very much, Njoki. Now, I've just been notified that we need to be able to wind up. But before we wind up, I'd like to hear from each and every one of you in terms of what your last word would be to the viewers in regards to sports biopics and what it is that we need to be able to do different to be able to get our stories out there. Manish, over to you.
Sarah, yeah, that's a good thing said by the lady just now here. Yes, listen, there are so many things. The government funding should be little bit fast. But being a filmmaker, you should not have to wait for that. There was a girl, need no money. Somebody took her video and posted on Facebook. Within 3 days, more than $2 million was there in the account. So the first thing is choose a subject. I was there in Kenya because of Kenya International Sport Film Festival. Mr. Karim is doing super job. When I was there, I meet Tata Boya, I meet Douglas Wakiuri. I saw a small clip of Olympians, how they are living there. I was crying there. Those kind of stories should have to come up, post on YouTube. Let the people know there is something. Then the people with the fund, if they think there is reality come, there is no point. We announced the movie on Douglas Wakiuri. We still on that. Unfortunately, when we are about to complete our financing and all this pandemic start, we are still there. That movie is going to happen. But the thing is, we must need to concentrate on material. Is the thing which come in public domain. Let everybody know. Now you see, YouTubers, they start with smartphone and now they are making money $4,000, $5,000 a month. So it's starting. Don't wait for that big equipment. Capture the story. Let the people know that this is a person have done this and now he is in this situation. Then so many people who have the idea, who want to do something. The thing start from your phone. Start shooting. Post on social media. Let everybody know. Anything happen in Kenya, I know by minutes because my friends there. On Facebook, I know here. So, where is the content? Where is the people? Where is the story? Just let it go. Even with your phone, just let it go. Later on, somebody see like, they will come with the funding.
Thank you so much, Manish, for that and being so passionate about it. Salim, how about you?
I think I'd agree with Manish. We have to take the step and just get out there and tell the stories as in the best possible way we can. But we also need to just educate the younger generations in terms of the history. As has been said many times before, they don't know these athletes. They've never heard of most of these people. They don't know these histories. Somehow we've got to get these stories in front of them. And I think there's enough talent and enough drive for young people to go out there and then tell these stories better.
Thank you so much, Salim. And for you, Chris?
I think what I'm going to say is actually going to shock a lot of people, Salim included. The government has got 4 pillars, or the big 4 agenda. And something like the Kenya International Sports Film Festival or sports film would fall under the category of universal healthcare. Because, a sporting nation is a healthy nation, and a healthy nation is a wealthy nation. So actually the government should actually look at it in that aspect. And in terms of industrialization and manufacturing, a film is the result of a finished product that has gone through a process. So basically we're under manufacturing. So actually we do fall under those 2 key pillars of the president's agenda, as in sports and film. So yes, the funds are there. The government can actually provide these funds, and we can actually help to foster the agenda.
Gosh, all right. That's a very good perspective, Chris. Completely different. NJOKI, you wanted to say something? Oh, you good?
Tell African stories. How can you tell the stories of East Africa and from Africa without telling the story of sports? Shame on us when we don't tell the stories of sports. That's one. African pride. We don't have to copy nobody. We are Africans. We have our own backgrounds. We are so unique. That's why people come to Africa for, like, it's a lifetime dream to have to come as a tourist in Africa to see this unique continent. So why aren't we taking our continent to them? Why aren't we exporting our stories? Reporting other people's stories. Time to export our stories by telling African stories well told for international and local audiences. That includes sports. That's me. That's my last word.
Thank you very much, NJOKI, and thank you to the whole panel. Now, to summarize it all, we have completely been challenged. I myself, as a producer and filmmaker, I also feel extremely challenged because this falls on us in regards to the lack of enough biopics, especially sports biopics, and in our media space and as well as digital space. So NJOKI, who has told us that it is time to tell our African stories, and African stories cannot be told without East African stories. East Africans, we are unique and we have great stories that need to be told. It is time for us to take our continent through our stories to the rest of the world, as opposed to continuing to import content. Now, MANISH has told us, let us not wait. We don't have to wait for money. The stories are there. Right, us. We need to be able to tell those stories, whether it is from our phone, no matter how simple. Put it out there and the money will follow us, right? And then Salim has challenged us and told us, you know what, we need to educate our younger generation about this history. They need to be able to know where we've come from, because we'll never really be able to recognize who we are if we don't recognize where we've come from. So we need to be able to educate our younger generation. And he also agreed with Manish in regards to we need to tell those stories and the money will follow us thereafter. Chris has challenged us and taken us from spin and told us, look, production and telling of stories falls under the big 4 agenda. Yeah, and we the filmmaking is a production process, so the money is there. So we also need to be able to push the government and funders to be able to put money behind the stories, because the more we tell the stories and they're out there, the bigger we are able to create. You know, we are able to also get a lot more in return, and also market our continent, market our country, because in that way we're able to also bring in a lot more, whether it's from tourism, and then over and above that, revenue. At the end of the day, revenue will always come back as long as those unique and powerful stories are out there. So our panelists, our wonderful panelists, our time is up, but this has been an extremely wonderful and engaging talk. And the one thing that I've really drawn from this is the passion that each and every one of you have. And from that passion, great things can come out of it. So for me, it's just to encourage each and every one of us, because we're all in this unique space of filmmaking and production, That's the more we come together and have these conversations, the more we can be able to do to make sure that these stories get out there. Manish, thank you for joining us all the way from India and also sharing with us your experience and also challenging us. And Salim, thank you so much for sharing and also opening up about your father and the story that you told, the biopic that you told about your father. Chris, moderator, you are not to be in this panel, but you're here. Thank you also for sharing. It was a great pleasure having you on board. And of course, Madam NJOKI MUHOHO, who's doing great within this industry and also nurturing new talent. Thank you so much as well for joining us on this panel and for the great work that you're doing, especially nurturing the young people. So thank you, my panelists, and I want to be able to go back to you, Chris.
Thank you very much. That has been an amazing panel.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And
it's always a pleasure.
Definitely. And also, this is the same country that people like the late Peter Beard fell in love with. People like Dan Eldon were nurtured here. So we have a natural affinity for sports and film.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Well, that was a panel on the importance of the sports biopic and its impact within society. And we're joined by Salim Amin, the son of the legendary Muhammad Amin, or Mo, as he's referred to. And, well,